Welcome to Dear Human Resources, the podcast where we explore the human side of work and how it's evolving. Today's episode is about AI, but not in the usual way. We're not talking about fear, replacement, or hype. Instead, we're asking a much more practical question, if you will. Busy work is the first thing AI should take. How to break down your job into AI tasks and human tasks, and why it matters. And how can we break our jobs into AI tasks and human tasks in a way that actually gives us back time, energy, and agency? So to help us explore that topic, I'm delighted to welcome Sharon Gai, international keynote and TEDx speaker, AI and innovation expert, former Alibaba executive, and author of the book, How to Do More with Less, Future-Proofing Yourself in an AI-Driven Economy. Sharon, welcome to Dear Human Resources.
Thank you so much.
Sharon, many professionals feel overwhelmed by AI, right? Or they are unsure how to engage with it meaningfully. From your perspective, what mindset shift helps people move from anxiety to feeling back in control?
The reason why we fear AI so much is really because we've been brainwashed for decades by Hollywood. That since the very beginnings, they've showed us movies like The Terminator and Megan, and I don't know if those are some of the movies that you have watched, or Ex Machina, where, at first it's great, AI is great, or it's in a humanoid robotic form, it helps us, it tutors our kids, but then eventually they all start to kill people somehow or harm humans. And that story arc is what has rested in our brains. And so I think we need to pull ourselves out of that. So we have to unlearn a lot of what these movies have taught us, what a lot of science fiction novels have taught us to. Now, with all these headlines of people losing their jobs to AI, that the CEO of Anthropic says that 50% of white collar jobs are going to be gone, or no entry level work is going to be ever needed again. And so people are in a lot of fear. The shift that I normally talk about is highlighting what AI is good at and what it is bad at in order for us to get over this jump. So, two terms that I normally talk about, one is narrow AI, the other one is general AI. And so the thing that a lot of these tech CEOs talk about is this thing called AGI, or artificial general intelligence. That is really not here yet. And if we know the difference between what AI is truly good at, which is the narrow tasks, the more rote tasks, the repetitive pieces in our work, and some of the higher up, more strategic and more creative tasks that AI is really not good at yet, it pulls us back in control as workers, and it gives us a more of a sense of purpose of why are we hired, or why is a particular person needed or hired in their job. It's the thing that I think we all will need to realize is it's not because of the certain skill set that we know, but instead it's the amount of experience that we intuitively know. And that's something that is very hard to replace.
Let's see if I have this right. Instead of asking, will AI replace me? The better question is, what parts of my work shouldn't require me?
Yeah, so in a lot of my keynotes, I have this pretty funny internet meme, or this meme picture. It's a big question across the screen, which is this our future org chart? And what I show is six different roles, all C-suite roles. The only picture that has a human head on it is the role of a CEO. And every other role that I list, whether it's the CIO or the CFO or the CHRO, they're all replaced by some sort of AI tool or logo. It's a make-believe picture, and I usually get a laugh out of that, because when people see that, it sort of just looks ridiculous. The point I'm trying to make is that this is the bad ending that everyone in their mind skips to. It's easy to think in black and white terms, and it's easy to jump to a conclusion when we see all these alarming headlines. That's kind of what we think might be the future org chart. But I sort of try to burst the bubble or sort of poke at it at least and address the elephant in the room. And then I show this other type of framework that I call the do more with less framework, which is taking the one role that you have, whether it's a HR manager or a recruiting manager, and taking people through a task exercise. So listing out the different tasks that make up that role. So if you're in recruiting, maybe your day-to-day consists of reading a lot of resumes, attending different calls with stakeholders who are informing you to hire for certain roles. Maybe another part of your job is reporting on some of these metrics of how far you've gotten for certain teams. So, and on it goes. There's many different tasks for people in a recruitment role. And then I say, so which of these roles are actually more automatable or something that is quite repetitive that we can hand over to an AI tool of some sort? And so it's sort of a self-replacement exercise. And my theory is that if all knowledge workers do this exercise of self-replacing first, that we would never be replaced by our higher ups or somebody that we are reporting to because we've already done this work. Now, the next part is after you get to know all of these different tools and the more automatable parts of your work, can you actually start to invite them into the company and start to use them? That's another whole other discussion. Different companies have different ways to process the procurement of that. But at least from a mental, theoretical point of view, it sort of readies us in a better direction. And again, it hopefully gives us more confidence and agency in our jobs.
Actually, your book is titled just that, How to Do More with Less, which is, a phrase that can sound exhausting. How can people do more with less without losing creativity and judgment and meaning in their work?
I wrote that, and pretty soon it'll be released in March. You can definitely find it in Barnes and Nobles, Amazon, Chapters if you're in Canada, and your favorite bookstore. And on the cover is a bee. This was actually selected a bit by accident, a bit by it was a sort of collaboration thing between me and my publisher. But the reason why there's a bee on it is because we do busy ourselves with a lot of busy work, and sometimes as corporate workers or knowledge workers we do feel like busy bees where our to-do lists are endless and it's one meeting after another, and it's sometimes you feel like you want to take a breath and sort of catch your breath. I think we don't need to work that way in the future, that it's possible to outsource a lot of that quote unquote busy work that, maybe somebody that is a lot junior to you can actually do, but it's not actually somebody junior. It's an AI agent. It's not something human at all. And the reason for that is human brain cells or our time. It's much better spent doing creative tasks or making a judgment call or something to do with ethics or providing meaning into something. We're born onto this earth with the tens of thousands of years and generations that's passed and all of this knowledge that we've accumulated from our ancestors. Like we shouldn't be using our time for very meaningless things. I think prior to AI, we couldn't do that. But in an AI future age, it's something that we can do. It's maximizing our own potential and it's excavating what else that is uniquely human about me that I can bring in to this job that I have.
So, as AI takes over some routine tasks, as you just explained, the skills that actually become more valuable sounds like creativity, right? And judgment. But what if you're not creative? How do you save your job here? What are you going to do?
Actually, even in the creative layer, there's something interesting happening. So, in some of my keynotes, I have this big slide up, and I there's sort of two words, and it says creativity does not equal the sign that's like does not equal to originality. So, I mean, we're also even if you're working in a creative field, whether it's creating movies or designing an ad banner, or if you are a UI or UX designer, the nature of your job sounds creative, But actually, there's yet still a lot of things that you can strip away from your role that you can start outsourcing to AI. But at the end of the day, AI can't give us something a bit more original because its LLMs are trained on, or they're pre-trained on a vast amount of data that's already occurred, or it's trained on knowledge that's already existent in the World Wide Web. And so creative people have to also sort of shift the way that they look at their own roles too. But if you're in a more non-creative role, say you're maybe in the paralegal team or you're in compliance, the nature of your job isn't to design something or story tell, but there's still definitely a lot of quote unquote creativity in your work. Anytime there's a new fire that you have to put out or a new edge case, AI still won't be good at that. If you are in your day to day, there's suddenly some sort of PR crisis. And I mean, with the current times that we're living right now, it seems like every single day there's some new pop up of piece of geopolitics or new thing that's happening. That way of needing to very agilely react to this new thing that's just popped up, that's also something that AI can't do very well. So, as a compliance manager or as a paralegal, there's still a lot of creativity you can apply into your roles whenever those far flung things are happening to us.
So in HR and leadership, productivity is often still defined as speed or output, right? So how should leaders rethink productivity in an AI-driven world?
Prior to this, we were definitely judged on how many banners can we design or how fast can we churn out this deck. I mean, a lot of for McKinsey consultants, for instance, they're judged on the speed with which they can complete a project. And I think as time goes on, productivity is going to shift from how fast something is produced to how much impact it actually creates. Labor is going to be something that's very free and also fast to obtain. If you wanted me to create you a commercial for this very podcast that we're on, I can absolutely create it for you in a video, image, written format, however you want in 1 minute. But with even that piece of ad or content, is it going to be good? Is it going to catch the right eyeballs? Is it going to attract the right attention? Probably not, because I am not yourself, the host, who's done this for so many years. I don't come from the podcast world. I don't have so much of the context, and so that is what is the human side again. Is we bring meaning into things. We used to not be able to do things very quickly, but now we can. So I think coupled those two things coupled together should equal to something that is 1 plus 1 equals greater than 2.
So Sharon, let's get practical. How can people decide which tasks to hand over to AI and which should remain human-led?
I think people are sometimes outsourcing too much of their work to AI. And yes, that can also be a problem. So, on the one hand, we want to encourage people to use it. On the other hand, we don't want people to use too much of it. There's still a very fine line. And I think the first wave of those super users, I think, from the couple of responses or outputs they've received, they said, oh, this is pretty good. Let me just shove everything that I do to AI now, whether it's an email that I'm supposed to write or this piece of brief that I'm supposed to create. Let me just hand it all to AI. And that isn't so great either because there's so many different studies that's now come out based on, for instance, if you're using AI to write for you, you're not even recalling what you have written. And so there's a framework that I like to use in a lot of my talks is what do we use AI for? And what should we keep human in this chart format? But basically, use AI anytime that there's a tool called Loom. If anyone uses that, it's a recording tool, and we use it very often in the tech space where we are educating maybe somebody in our team, or sometimes we're working remotely, so we're not on at the same time as them. We record this process on Loom, and we send it to them, so on video, and then we send it to them. And so, if you can demo that to a junior employee by clicking a few buttons and if it's a very repeatable process, then that's probably something that you can use AI for. The thing that you want to keep human is definitely novel problems. So problems that's never occurred before, anything that is a high stake situation. So in the world of HR, when you're making the call to finally hire someone, I hope you don't outsource completely that decision to AI either, because you as the human will ultimately have the most amount of context in which is the best person to go to. Anytime you're doing with pricing, so anything that is going to really have an impact on your bottom line, those are things that AI can make recommendations, but at the end of the day, you'll still need to be the person to decide and take ownership of a task that where you need a human to decide on something.
Yeah, and we know that as of 2026, AI still makes quite a few mistakes. So it's not foolproof totally. So, what mistakes do you see people make when they adopt AI?
I think a lot of people think that it's a magical answer to everything, that it'll solve all our problems. I think that's usually still, I'm sure we've all seen that the hype cycle where we're on this uphill climb, and then there's a downhill trough of disappointment, and then it sort of stabilizes. 2025 really seemed to be the year where we were really on that hype, and now going into 2026, or I guess the end of 2025, we're sort of in the trough of disillusionment. I'm sure everyone has seen that article of 95% of AI projects fail, but they forget that the 5% of AI projects that work have worked really well. And a lot of the companies that's born out of San Francisco today, I mean, the revenue per head per employee is absolutely ridiculous. For something like Midjourney, which is hundreds of millions of dollars now, it's a record revenue per head number that was unthinkable if Midjourney was something that was a company even 5 years ago. There's a lot of things that's made possible now by AI that we can't forget. But I think that the big mistake is thinking that it is a solve all type of thing, but there's definitely problems to it. And just to be aware of its shortcomings, the times that it could give you wrong answers, the times that it could also give you very regurgitated answers. I don't know if personally for myself, when I see like maybe because I'm a power user, my eyes are very sensitive to AI generated information. It's very easy for me to tell if a paragraph is written by AI or not. And sometimes I would get these perfectly crafted emails from business partners or clients or people that's trying to also sell to me. And there's like a bit of me that's like, really? Like
Yeah.
you couldn't take the 3 or 4 minutes to just write something in your own
Yeah.
words.
Come on.
So there's definitely that. And I think that's probably a mistake too, is I think some people are outsourcing a little too much.
To close, what's one practical step someone can take this week to feel more confident and future ready?
Yeah, so they can definitely find me first on the interwebs. I'm very findable on LinkedIn. They can follow my newsletter where I provide a practical tip every single week. But I would say this week, the first thing to maybe try is do more with less exercise. So write out the one role that you have and then list out every single major piece of task that comprises of your role and try to do that task grouping exercise and to siphon out what is pretty automatable in your role and what is very deeply human. And when you know the balance or maybe sometimes even the ratios of one versus the other, it gives you a lot more clarity and control to your work and the future path of what you're doing.
Thanks, Sharon, for such a grounded and empowering conversation today. And to our listeners, AI doesn't need to make work harder. If we are intentional, it can help us protect what makes work human. Thank you for listening to Dear Human Resources. And Sharon, thanks for being our guest.
Thank you so much, Maureen, for having me.
Support for this show comes from Western Carolina University, a campus of the University of North Carolina system, with the technical assistance of Kelly Minnis.